talking about going from pain to freedom and finding ways of understanding what causes pain, whether it's acute or chronic, and also what we can do to reverse or at the very least reduce that pain. How many here have some type of chronic or acute pain, such as arthritis or joint inflammation or headaches? Yeah, several of us. And it seems to be almost a fact of life. We're told from the time we're quite young, oh, this happens, it's normal, it comes with age. We're even told that it's genetic, it's in your family, and you just need to live with it. Does that sound familiar to anybody? What if there was a way to understand or improve and even reverse some of these symptoms? My goal here is to really inspire you to upgrade your health, no matter where in your wellness journey you are today. Many of us have, at some point in our lives, had to deal with a health condition that forced us to go on a healing journey. Sometimes that healing journey is short and relatively simple. Other times it takes quite a long time and a lot of investigation to understand what is happening. Why is this happening? And how can I actually relieve myself from this? Do you know of anybody who's had a longer journey like that, or perhaps even yourself? Yeah, we all have at some point in our life. I grew up in a dojo. I trained in the martial arts every day. I was not naturally good at this, but I was deeply driven. I wanted to be the very best that I could be. In fact, this attitude spilled over into many areas of my life, in school, at home, with my friends, with my hobbies. What I thought of as a winner's attitude was actually more of a perfectionist's mindset. What happened was I had a deep-seated need to feel safe and worthy and lovable. Very often, I just didn't feel like I was good enough. Does this ring a bell? Does anybody else ever feel this way or have had these types of feelings? Yeah, it's very normal. Many of us have had this feeling of not being enough, of needing to prove our value, of our worth. This creates certain types of behavioral patterns, which can be quite detrimental. When I was 13, I began to notice stiffness in my right hand. And very quickly, what ended up happening was that stiffness began to turn into discomfort, then pain, and eventually the pain was so bad, I could barely use my right hand. I actually had to learn to write with my left hand, comb my hair, brush my teeth, and do everyday things with my left hand because my right hand was almost completely unusable. I had gone to various doctors and all of them had said to me, this is genetics, it runs in your family, your grandparents and great-grandparents have arthritis. What we would recommend is to take medication to help you control the pain and bring down enough inflammation that maybe you can use your hand a little bit more. As you can imagine, this didn't sit very well with me. I was an aspiring athlete, very young, and I kept thinking, I have my whole life ahead of me and I'm not able to use my right hand. It can't be that this is the only answer or option. I know that there is some type of answer, some way that I can find relief. For 2 years, I tried a lot of different things, holistic approaches, and even non-medical approaches with my physiotherapist to try to increase mobility. And to be honest, none of that helped very much. I remember really clearly, about 2 years into this situation, before I went to bed, I had this intuitive insight that looking back, it was an epiphany. It was incredible because it helped me connect the dots in a way that allowed me to actually shift out of what was causing that pain to begin with. The epiphany I had was I sat down after dinner and I just began to think, why do I train so hard? Why do I study above and beyond to the point where I'm giving up my sleep in order to get 100% on my tests? Why do I say yes to things that I really don't want to do and I'd rather just rest? Why am I not so great at creating boundaries and saying no when I really don't feel good about something? It was this thought process that led me to realize, hang on a minute, I'm doing this. I'm the one in charge. And I'm the one who's allowing for situations to happen that doesn't feel good to me. On top of that, I'm now creating so much pressure. I'm the one who's pressuring myself to be the amazing athlete, the star student, the really good daughter, the really great friend, to always be there for everybody else and putting myself last in the process. To be honest, I don't even know why at 15 I was able to make these connections, but it was a godsend because this enabled me to connect the dots and realize when I'm feeling very stressed, when I feel incredible pressure to perform in some way, the inflammation flares up. My hand is worse. The moment, the instant that I made that connection, bang, I realized, wow, I did this. That means I can undo it. Or at least to the very minimal, I can reduce the amount of pain and inflammation. And you know what? I actually did reverse it really well. So well, in fact, that the doctors couldn't find any trace of arthritis at all. This is after 2 years of not being able to use my right hand. Take a guess as to how long it took for my body to heal once I made that realization that the way I felt was directly impacting my body's health. Most people tend to guess maybe about 6 months, but actually it was 24 hours. That evening, after I had this epiphany, I went to bed, and the next morning when I woke up, I could bend my fingers completely, and it didn't hurt. I was amazed. Honestly, it was amazing, like a miracle. It was incredible. This was one of those key insights that had me ponder, what else am I doing in my life that's creating a result that I'm not feeling good about? So I had other types of discomforts, digestive problems, migraines, different elements that came up from time to time. I started to look at it from this new perspective. Okay, what happened beforehand? Was I upset about something? What is the emotional connection? So this is something that was huge. It really made such a difference moving forward in how I handled symptoms that came up, how I handled pain that showed up in my life. This was just the beginning though, because of course there are many other elements. Sometimes you have an injury, you fall, there are other reasons for pain as well. But this is one of those hidden reasons that make a huge difference when you are able to make that connection. Some of the big reasons for pain, as I mentioned a moment ago, accidents. You fall, you might break something, physical trauma in the body, right? The other reason is improper movement, posture, repetitive strain injuries, or not moving enough, because that also creates a stiffness and tension in the body when your body no longer gets the exercise, the flow, the movement, the energy flowing through it. We need that. We need that to be able to have relaxed joints and relaxation in our system. The third reason for pain are toxins or poisons. So for example, mold, parasites, toxic bacteria, to name a few. When the body is overwhelmed with a high degree of toxicity, this creates an environment that is conducive to one of the key elements, if this is the reason for somebody experiencing pain, is to do a cleanse. And this is a foundation for relieving pain. Because when you have a clean diet, when your acidic levels go down, inflammation also goes down. You're no longer in that tight fight and flight status. Your body starts to relax, to feel relief, to recharge. You're able to sleep more deeply. You're able to heal more quickly. It makes a huge difference. The fourth reason is an imbalancing mindset or mental stress. A part of this is not allowing yourself to feel or process emotions, for example, or when we create severe internal tension with our thoughts. Some of the factors that impact our health that most of us are aware of include things like nutrition, exercise, a wonderful natural environment conducive to health that supports us, peace of mind. This is highly underrated because when you feel at peace and calm and relaxed, this really creates an internal environment in your body that doesn't allow for illness or bacteria overgrowth or inflammation to overtake. Community and heart connections, having great relationships, friendships, having wonderful connections, a beautiful network of people that care about you and you about them. This is one of the key factors for a long and happy, healthy life. Personal satisfaction as well, incredibly important. Do you feel that you are making an impact? Are you doing some of the things that you feel you were born to do? What are the gifts that you are sharing? Are you able to share them? Do you feel appreciated for what you bring to the world? Very important. The last one I want to spend a couple of minutes discussing, genetics versus mindset. So when we have a type of physical condition such as arthritis, oftentimes we are told it's in your genes. Your grandparents had it, your dad, your mom had it. We're not discounting genetics. However, there are other elements, other reasons that will also impact one's health. And sometimes it's far more impactful than whatever you're carrying in your genes. For example, one of the things we inherit from our families growing up is our mindset, our attitude. There are beliefs. What we see from our parents and our families in how they handle finances, how they handle conflict, how they handle health challenges, how they communicate with each other, how they navigate the world and in their life, how they show up. This is a deeply ingrained pattern that we learn that goes deep into the subconscious. As we know, children take in everything around them. What we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we experience, even if it's not directed at us, what we're picking up in our environment, it goes deep into the subconscious. That becomes a pattern that we then grow up with. This is something that's really fascinating. There are studies that were done on families who had biological children and also adopted children. What they were doing in the studies was to see if the inherited diseases, the high blood pressure, the heart disease, etc., was only going through the biological line of children, or if there was any impact at all on the adopted children. And what do you think they found? They found that the adopted children had the exact same health concerns as the genetic children. So what that meant is that genetics was not the key factor in determining one's health. It was the environment. It was the mindset that they grew up with. It was the level of stress and the knowledge of how to handle that stress that impacted. Genetic versus non-genetic, adopted, it made no difference. And it wasn't a little bit different. It was, they couldn't even tell the difference, basically, between the two. So it's really something to think about. It's not always genetics. Let's talk about some of the mindsets that can negatively impact health. Perfectionism. This is one that many of us struggle with. This is pushing yourself to impossibly high standards that can lead to chronic stress and inflammation and tension. Eventually, it breaks down the body And it also creates a mindset. It's very difficult to relax and just read or watch a sunset because you're pushing yourself. You're a high achiever, type A, push, push, push. It's one thing to strive for excellence, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when that tips into a situation where you're now causing harm and damage, then that's a point where it's really negatively impacting you. Where is this coming from? Oftentimes it's from not feeling worthy, not feeling valuable, not feeling seen or heard, where you feel that you need to prove your worth in order to be loved or to feel safe. The next one, over responsibility, taking on too much and feeling responsible for too many things and people, and then getting overwhelmed. Suppressed emotions, when we don't allow ourselves to feel our feelings, when we're embarrassed by feelings, feeling ashamed, or we think, I shouldn't feel that way. I really need to practice forgiveness, and yet I'm so angry at this person. Every time I see them, I'm almost shaking. Okay, so there's something to work through here. Oftentimes what happens is because of societal expectations or the way we were raised, it's not okay to show or express emotions. You know what happens with emotions that are not expressed when needed? They start to show up as physical conditions in the body. So when you feel pain, when you're getting the migraines, the stomach ache, the tremors, the blood pressure, this is an emotion that has not been allowed to be expressed, to be shared, to be resolved. Something to think about as well when we have physical symptoms coming up. What is that feeling about? What is your body trying to tell you? What do you need to know about it? The next one is fear of failure, not measuring up. This is also incredibly detrimental and one that many of us have, right? It's totally normal in the sense that so many people have these imprints. So many people are struggling with these types of mindsets. The next one is low self-worth. Again, it's when you don't feel like you're good enough. This can drive toward perfectionism and again, not having enough self-compassion, self-kindness, where you can allow yourself to rest, allow yourself to say no, allow yourself to create boundaries, and allow yourself to have your needs met by, first of all, stating what they are, and then not tolerating anything that negatively impacts you. And of course, this is very easy to say, but this is our work, right? That inner work of learning how to value and honor ourselves and say, this is important to me. It's important. I'm going to create a situation where I am a priority and I am going to be okay with that. Believe me, the people that truly care about you will support you in that. They will. Number 6, lack of boundaries. This is another one. When we overextend ourselves, we want to be the best. We never want to say no. Sometimes we need to say no. Really. It's about protecting your peace. It's about valuing yourself. It's about deciding who gets your energy. Who deserves your energy? Where do you want to put your energy, your precious resources? You have this one incredible life. Who are we going to share it with? What are we going to do with it? And what are we not going to tolerate? Number 7, all or nothing thinking. So having an extreme perspective. This can also be difficult because instead of allowing yourself to enjoy the small successes, you might say, oh, this is not good enough. It has to be 100% now or it's not good enough. And this thinking is very hard on us. Can you imagine talking to your dearest friend or your child in a voice that expressed any of these negative mindsets? We say negative because they have a challenging impact on us. What they really are teachers, because when we realize we have a tendency towards any of these, this is a teacher telling us, okay, We've had certain experiences in our life. We're becoming more aware of them, and we can actively shift them. We can shift this mindset into something that supports us, that elevates us, that enlivens us, that makes us have greater joy in our life, mobility, freedom. Yeah, it's very possible to shift. The last one, there are many, but these are typically the main ones that I see with my clients, and also ones I've also experienced. Catastrophizing, expecting the worst situations. This can create a constant state of low-grade stress, or even acute high-grade stress if you really let yourself fall into a pit of despair. Epigenetics is one of the things that really help to overcome the idea that we are stuck with our genetics. So what can we do? Many things. How do we change a deeply ingrained belief or mindset? There are many techniques. Some of the things that help a person ensure long-lasting change is to have a really clear goal and a why. If you're really internally driven and you feel, if I don't change anything in my life, in 2 years, will I still be happy with where I'm at? In 5 years, how will I feel? If nothing changes and I keep going in this direction. If the answer is, I wouldn't be too happy, okay, then this is a great time to take stock and think about the areas of your life that you would like to see an improvement in and what that would look like for you. The second thing is learning to trust your intuition and having the courage to speak up. Oftentimes we have some sort of intuitive insight, a hunch, right? That's the first step. The second step is speaking up and giving voice to that. Having the courage to say, this is what I need. This is what I'm feeling. This is what my intuition is saying I should go towards. I should explore this. So many times something happens in our life and we think in retrospect, I should have trusted myself. My first gut instinct or what I was going to do in the beginning, that was the right call. Instead, I let my brain start to overthink and convince me otherwise. The third one is having an amazing network, support from a community of people that genuinely want to see you uplifted, celebrate your success, encourage and support you when you need it, when you're going through a challenge. I found for me personally, these three were so key in helping me overcome various health crises over the years. It had propelled me toward healing and recovery so much more quickly than if I had been struggling by myself, which I did in the first few health crises I had when I was younger. I'd like to share another story of chronic pain that I went through in my late 20s. And this was unexplained. I had been traveling with my mom and my best friend in Europe. And one day I noticed my eyes were getting really dry. Eventually, after a day or two, it started to sting, and then I had intense eye pain. It was very painful. And I couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't want to worry my mom, and so I downplayed how bad it was. I'm sure many of you can appreciate moments like that in your life too. When we got off the plane, I asked her to take me to the hospital. That was the start of a 3-year journey of trying to understand what was causing this. I went through so many tests. Everything came back negative. I did holistic therapies and various treatments, and none of them really shifted. I had a bit of relief for a bit, and then again, nothing. The pain returned. And I couldn't understand what was happening. Then one day, a friend said to me, have you heard of bioresonance? It's an in-depth scan that is a little bit like an MRI scan, PET scan, CAT scan, and a blood test in one, but it goes very deep. I looked up a consultant and I did the scan with her. This was a medical doctor who had incorporated the bioresonance into her practice. She found that I had parasites as well as mold, heavy metals, a large amount of sensitivities, and of course, quite a lot of inflammation in my system, among other things. But these were the main items. The interesting thing was that about halfway through this 3-year journey, I began to wonder if I had parasites. But the funny thing is, I didn't have pets. I had no friends who were veterinarians. I had no reason to think this. It was an intuitive insight that kept coming back over and over again. Yvette, check for parasites, check for parasites. And when I went to my doctor to ask for a test, she refused. I went to many other doctors after. They all refused because they didn't believe that was the reason. In fact, they started to doubt me, and they thought I was either a hypochondriac or I was lying. The reason is because all the tests came back negative. They couldn't find any reason, so therefore it must be me, right? It can't possibly be that they missed something. There are many wonderful doctors out there who do an amazing job. But when you feel like, no, we have not found the actual cause, you need to keep going. I really encourage you not to give up if that is your situation or ever has been. You really need to trust your intuition and keep going and keep asking, because eventually you will find a response. You will find some insight. Many tests just aren't sensitive enough to pick up some of the subtler reasons for pain or inflammation. Has anybody here ever felt that way, where they just weren't being heard, or where they knew something was wrong and nobody could find it, or they didn't believe you because they didn't have proof? It can be very emotionally painful to feel like you're not seen, you're not heard, you're not taken seriously, and at the same time you're suffering, and all you want is relief. Yeah. This is where having an amazing network of people to support you is crucial. What the scan found, as I mentioned, was a layer of toxicity. This doctor who did the scan on me said that your main problem is a liver parasite who has a toxin that they release into the system that is like an acid, and it has eroded the epithelial lining, which is the protective skin that covers your eyes. And this is the main reason why you have the eye pain. Your nerves are completely exposed. So every time you open your eyes and the dust particles touch your eyes, it's like being stabbed by knives. And that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like acid had been poured over my eyes, and they were super sensitive. What can we do? Luckily, this technology is so incredible. It can also help the body heal faster. It uses gentle frequencies to elevate the body's capacity for healing, reduce inflammation, as well as detect imbalances. Once we were able to reduce the parasite load, as well as the mold load, my body started to heal much faster. It was amazing. After 3 years of searching and a lot of physical pain and mental, emotional stress over this, I found something that helped tremendously. I want to talk a little bit about what bioresonance is. It's a technology that uses very gentle electromagnetic frequencies to scan your system for things like viruses, parasites, mold, bacteria. It looks to see if you have allergies, food intolerances, heavy metals, inflammation, and much more. It even looks at the strength of your auric field. The technology works by detecting the unique measurable vibration of each cell. For example, when our lungs are healthy, it vibrates at 72 hertz. And when our lungs are under functioning, that goes down. It could be at 60, 50, 30 hertz. So we know that the lungs have a low amount of energy. And this is when we would go in and investigate to see what's causing that low amount of energy. What I love about bioresonance is that it is so gentle. It can be used with children and the elderly. It's non-invasive. It can be done online, and it doesn't have the harsh side effects that many other therapies do. It even shows your auric field and where your auric field is impacted. For example, at the start of the scan, we could see maybe a little bit of an indentation in the field of a person's aura. And by the end of the scan, when we've energized, you'll see that the aura fills out beautifully again. It's really amazing. To the right, you'll see a side-by-side comparison of a brain scan. On the left is the MRI, and on the right is the bioresonance scan. You'll see the little black dots at exactly the same area where you have the tumor showing in the MRI scan. So let's talk a little bit about mindset patterns and a few case studies. We'll talk with allergies first. You have allergies that are due to toxins versus emotional stress. Toxins are things like parasites and mold, heavy metals. These are actual physical items that overload our system, weakening it, making it very difficult to absorb nutrients now from the digestion, and also difficult to properly rebalance and recharge, no matter how much sleep you get or how much exercise you get. If you're completely overloaded with toxins, the first thing to do is to help clear that out, because this triggers a lot of sensitivities in people when you have a lot of the heavy metals and the chemicals and mold. The other reason is emotional stress. I'd like to share a story. In my earlier clinical practice in Toronto, we had a lady come in, and this is a typical story. It was in my first year of practice. My background was in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. She had come in with very severe allergies, so severe, in fact, that she had nearly died several times due to anaphylactic shock. She was very allergic to oranges and white flowers. The director, who was overseeing her, I was consulting there, asked her many questions, trying to pinpoint when the allergies actually started. When you think about it, as babies, we're not born with allergies typically, right? So allergies develop. What is an allergy actually? It's the mind's attempt to protect us from pain and from possible death. Now, that is an intelligent response from our mind, trying to keep us alive. So actually, an allergy is showing us that there was a situation in our life that required us to protect ourselves from something that was deemed very dangerous for some reason, or extremely unpleasant. This lady could not remember why she was allergic to oranges and white flowers. What was this pattern? When did it begin? She had a total block in her mind. It was several visits later that she finally realized this one moment. She said, wow, I remember in that year, my husband had died. In fact, I'm the one that found him. After work, I went home, I opened the door, and I saw that he had committed suicide. Number one, this was a huge shock for her. She didn't expect it at all. Number two, and this is what her mind had really blocked out until this moment, next to his body on the dinner table was a vase with white flowers and a bowl of oranges. Her mind had associated these two items with death. This went deep into her subconscious because she was in shock. And subconsciously, her mind was protecting her from dying if she ever got near oranges or white flowers. Isn't that incredible? Our minds are brilliant. They do everything possible to protect us from what we think could harm us, potentially kill us. The problem is when in the moment the danger happens, yes, you want to be protected. But when the danger has passed and you're still putting out the cortisol, you're still putting out the fear, the adrenaline, you're still creating the same symptom, the same allergy or the same arthritis or the same migraine, then you're in a pattern of suffering, and you're suffering unnecessarily because the actual danger has passed, but your mind is still creating the safety pattern, the safety protocol. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Going back to this lady, as soon as she realized the connection between her allergies and what her mind was doing, this was a friend, this was done to protect her, she released it. She was actually able to reverse the allergy completely and go back to eating oranges. And she had no problem with white flowers. And even 6-7 months later, when we caught up with her, called her and said, "How are you doing? Just wanted to check in. What's happening with this?" She said, "No problems. I eat oranges all the time. I love them. I really missed eating them." This was such a beautiful release. And it can be that easy once you understand what the connection is, what the underlying factor is that's creating the symptom you're experiencing. Coming back to arthritis, two things. If it's emotion-based, oftentimes it's because you're high achieving, you're a perfectionist, you have a need to prove worthiness in some way. This tends to be the mindset under most people who have chronic arthritis or rheumatism. They feel that they're not enough in some way, and they're having to prove their worth. The other thing is the physical, repetitive strain injuries, and also toxins. When we're not able to digest certain foods properly, we're not able to absorb certain nutrients, they oftentimes get deposited into the joints. Too much of the calcium, instead of going into the bones, they get deposited around the joints. This can also cause some rheumatism and arthritis. Yeah. What else impacts our health? Some of the main culprits that I tend to see with clients is negative stress. The reason I put negative there is because stress in and of itself is not a bad thing. It helps us grow. It pushes us to be a better version of ourselves. It pushes us to really create an environment where we feel good. But when the stress is so difficult to deal with that we break down without being able to catch our breath and actually learn from it and grow from it, then it can become a harmful pattern. Mindset. The next, mold and parasites. Mold is incredibly toxic, and it acts similar to bubblegum in our system. It slows everything down. It creates a lot of brain fog. It makes it difficult to absorb nutrients. It makes it difficult for the system to really function optimally. And it has a lot of toxicity that creates allergies and sensitivities. So sometimes people are living in a country or in a home that has a lot of dampness. There's not enough airflow, and we're breathing in a lot of the mold. You don't see mold for the most part. But by the time you do, if you see a little patch of black or green, it's already too late in the sense that it's everywhere. It's spread throughout the house, into the walls, into the clothing. So it's really important to just be aware of the environment as well, of where you're living. Toxins, whether they're physical or emotional, and disharmonic EMFs. So EMFs in and of themselves, like stress, they're not a bad thing. Our planet, our sun, the stars, they create an electromagnetic frequency, an EMF, which is amazingly harmonizing. When we go out and we stand barefoot on sand or the grass, it is soothing, it is relaxing for our nervous system. It creates a beautiful harmony. Our circadian rhythms are reset. It's wonderful. Disharmonic EMFs are ones that are not found in nature. So the radio waves, the microwaves, the phone frequencies, these actually break down the cells. This is why it's so important to spend as much time in nature as possible to help us recharge and create resilience. There are many other things we can do to create resilience against disharmonic EMFs, but this is just the basic to start with. We talked about mold. There are several things that I would really recommend that you consider doing in order to create an environment that has as little mold as possible. There are 3 items I would suggest. UVC lights. This kills mold spores on contact. A vinegar that's 20% or higher. You can put a little bit into your washing machine. You can use it in your cleaning. And the next one is food grade hydrogen peroxide. This is also something you can use to clean your utensils or your home with. Parasites, they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere, but we don't need to be afraid of them. Those who have pets are very well aware that we take our pets to get dewormed regularly. But parasites don't discriminate. They don't care if you're a dog, a cow, or a human being. Everybody has a certain degree of mold and parasites and bacteria living symbiotically with them. As long as the numbers are low and our health is strong, it's not an issue. The problem is when we have inflammation, when our system is very low in energy, when we haven't had enough sleep, when we're feeling a lot of strong emotion that's not being released, this creates an internal environment that is paradise for a parasite. There's inflammation, there's high acidity, there's usually a lot of sugar people are eating at that time. And this is where a lot of our food cravings will come from, because the parasites want to be fed. Luckily, there are many things that can be done to prevent or reduce the parasite load in our systems. Some of the surprises that clients have when we work together to create and elevate their life and their health is noticing how good it feels to be seen and heard and validated, and how important this is. For some people, they go years without feeling like anyone's really seen them, that anyone's really appreciating them or noticing them. As human beings, we all have this need to feel seen and heard and appreciated. We want to know that what we're offering, what we're doing, what we're giving of our love, of our heart, of our energy is being received, is being noticed and appreciated. The other is the amazing impact that your mindset has on your health and how empowering this awareness is. When you start to make that connection between how you feel emotionally versus how your physical body feels, you empower yourself so well, because you're able to now take a step back when you're being triggered by a situation that in your history typically triggers you, and say, okay, I know that usually I react like this, but now I have more resilience. I know that this can cause a headache later on or indigestion, so I'm going to make a different choice. Also, what surprises people is the amount of critters, the mold, the bacteria, the parasites, and also the amount of heavy metals we have in our system. The beautiful surprises is when they have an incredible network of people around them, a team truly rallying for their success, it feels really great, really great. It propels them toward their goals so much faster. So what does thriving look like? For me, it's having the energy to play with your friends, your children, your parents, to run after the grandkids if you have them, to enjoy outdoor activities. It's having a passion for life, waking up excited to connect and create. Having incredible health is worth its weight in gold. No matter what your situation, there's always hope and ways to improve your vitality. So I'm curious, what about you? What is your definition of thriving? What does a happy, healthy life look like for you? A feeling of joy, free, authentic expression. Yes, yes.
Having the energy to get through the day and be feeling joyous throughout all that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. That is just such a great feeling, to not be worried and just happy with whatever is happening at that moment.
Yeah. That feels amazing just doing this. Gratitude and appreciation. This helps tremendously. Take 5 minutes today to think of everyday things that feel really soothing for you, relaxing. Like how wonderful it is to feel the caress of a loved one on your skin, or how wonderful to slip into a hot bath or shower after a cold day outside, or listening to your favorite song and just relaxing, getting to go to bed early and sleeping well, the simple pleasures of life. Something you can also do is talk to your body, talk with your cells, really appreciate them. And just say, thank you, heart. Thank you, liver. Thank you, bones, for supporting me, for allowing me to express myself physically. It feels amazing to be able to move, amazing to feel the sunlight on my skin, smell the flowers in my garden. Thank you. Remember, whether you face mysterious health challenges or know of somebody who is, or if you're supporting someone, there's always a way to elevate your health. There's always a way to get some degree of relief. You are never stuck, even if it sometimes feels that way. There's always hope, and there's always a way to improve at least to the next step, and the next step, and next step. Healing is possible. I would really recommend these 3 elements to help you getting really clear on your goal and why you want it. So if you want thriving, amazing health, see yourself enjoying that. What is that going to bring for you? Is that going to bring you more freedom to play with your children and grandchildren? What is that going to feel like when you have that freedom? Learn to trust and act on your intuition. You know yourself best. You know yourself best. You know what you need. And have the courage to say it. Give voice to that need. Say what you want. And surround yourself with the people who will support you. This will elevate you and help you get there 10 times faster. Most people wait years to make life-affirming, impactful changes that increases their quality of life. Be in the top 10% who make their joy and health a priority. Take action to achieve your health and life goals. If you want to go deeper and really up-level your health, I would recommend that you find a way to have these 3 elements be a part of that journey for you. And something else to think about today. Think about your level of satisfaction in these different areas of your life, whether it's your health, intellectual, emotional, relationships, social, career, financial, overall life vision. Ask yourself this question: if nothing changed, are you going to be satisfied and happy with where you're heading, the direction you're heading in 6 months, in 2 years, in 5 years? Or is there room for growth? Is there room to explore a new possibility where maybe you're out of your comfort zone a little bit, but you're inviting more magic, more possibility, more health and joy and freedom? Your support network really is your superpower. Sometimes, like me, you might have read the self-help books, completed the seminars, done a lot of different therapies, and still have difficulty sticking to some of the practices and seeing those long-term results. I don't know if this sounds familiar for anybody, but if it is, then yeah, I get it. I've been there too. What you are missing is the path and the people that help you embody what you already know. Because deep down, we know what we need. And the right support in the right way is what will help us propel forward.